Tuesday, November 3rd, 1868, was an election day unlike any other. South Carolina and 7 other Confederate states had re-entered the Union in time for the election. But white gangs terrorized black voters in New Orleans, and Republicans in Georgia and Louisiana had to abandon campaigning altogether.
On the one hand is this kind of euphoria and this sense of organization, kind of like Freedom Summer or something like that. On the other hand, a real sense of danger in a lot of places.
African Americans had to arm themselves. They had to go to the polls in large numbers. In some cases, African Americans have to gather together the night before an election. They sleep out in the woods and they try to figure out when to go to the polls, when there'll be the fewest whites at the polls, so they'll actually be able to deposit their ballots.
Nothing could staunch the tide. Remarkably, 500,000 black men cast their votes. As a result, every southern state except Georgia and Louisiana voted for Ulysses S. Grant.
During the war, Grant had explicitly said the only way we can win the war is with the support of blacks. And so he treats them as equal citizens, even before the 13th and 14th amendments.
The freed people could take heart in the key role they played in electing the man who had crushed the Confederacy. Even more remarkably, dozens of black men were elected to office. Many had been held as slaves just a few years before. For them, and for millions of freed people, this was the moment in the sun. The 3 years following the Civil War were among the most hopeful, momentous, and frightening in our history. In those years, a generation that had been born into slavery and fought a war to kill the institution helped reconstruct the United States so that it might live up to its ideals.
One of the things about Reconstruction that to me has always been so powerful is the way in which American democracy was revitalized. And it was revitalized by the incredible commitment that former slaves and other people of African descent had to practicing democracy and the value that they held to it.
When you look at the radical, amazing changes that happened within a few years of the demise of slavery, there was a kind of irrational exuberance, or what people thought was rational exuberance at that point in time.
If you're living in this moment and you see the federal government in your community helping to hold up Black life, and that meant literal federal officials whose job it was to protect Black people. I mean, this is literally like the cavalry has come to the rescue. You see the future as limitless.
There are not many moments in recorded human history where a group that was so subordinated, so dispossessed, would within the space of a decade actually be fully integrated into the highest echelons of political society. It's almost like that decade advanced the possibilities of the freedmen 100 years.